Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. You've got mail from me, Bella, and this week we are discussing my university experience, freshers, and how I really found university. Because a lot of you at this point are at university and you're trying to wonder how it's all going to go and you're feeling a little bit lost and confused and you're feeling a bit lonely, and I remember that feeling. I remember the feeling of uncertainty when I was at university and just wondering, is this all it's ever going to be? Is this how I'm always going to feel? Is this how I'm always going to feel? And it's something that I want to chat with you guys more about, because the university experience is something that so many of us experience, but not many people talk about candidly, and it is getting more and more. But I was so naive when I went to university, and if I could share some pieces of wisdom to that version of me that went to university, I really, really would. And so this is what this week's podcast episode is going to be about. So if you know someone who is struggling at university, who has just gone to university, who went to university, send this episode their way, because I think they'll enjoy it. I think it's something that we all like chatting about because I've read your messages and I've seen your DMs, and this is something that is coming up a lot, and so it feels like a good topic to do. But before we get on to the content part of this week's podcast episode, first things first is the life update. And this week, I felt the most tired I've felt in so long, and I think it's probably a combination of like starting a new job, it becoming a bit darker, me not sleeping super well. It's just been this consistent tiredness, and I know I had this like big productive thing of everything that I was doing in my life, and I thought it was like, I did think it is going well, but I start to think I've like slipped into going on my phone a bit more now, and I don't think that's, like, I want to be honest, I don't think that's the best thing. And so I'm really needing to be strict with myself. And I think it's this like, you know how I spoke about this new lifestyle routine and blah, 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 all these things. I started to think maybe I went a bit high with my aspirations for myself. And that's not a bad thing. You know, we want to have high aspirations for who we want to be. But I do also think that it might have been easier just to start one thing. And now that one thing was going to the gym in the mornings and going to bed earlier. And now I've kind of got that cracked, and I've been cooking lunches every day. Maybe now I can implement the change in the evening. The tricky thing that I find, right, I'm really tired after work. I'm really tired. My brain capacity. I think because nothing is second nature yet. Nothing is like easy. Everything is new and exciting but different. My brain is just on all the time. It's constantly on go mode. And then I come back and I have to post TikTok and post on Instagram, and it's kind of just like, okay, well, those are those things. I need to edit this and edit that. I'm not really carving out time to do learning each day. But then flip side, I guess I'm learning new things every day when I'm doing new things. So I guess that is learning. But I wanted to carve out time every day to actually like purposefully learn. And I don't think I'm doing that. And so this is my plan for the next week. That's the thing that I'd really like to kind of get into my routine. And we're going to check back about next week how this actually goes, because I do honestly feel like I've got the early mornings down to a T now. I've got the early morning sorted. I've got the kind of going to bed earlier sorted. I've even got, you know, preparing my lunches and getting to work on time and all of these like very normal things that you have to get sorted. But you know, when it's a new routine, I've got all of those sorted. I just haven't really got the whole personal development thing sorted. But one positive thing is I have started reading again, like properly started reading again. Last night, this is the book of choice at the moment. Look at the size of that. It's called House of Earth and Blood. It's a Crescent City novel. Do you remember The Court of Thorn and Roses? And everyone just went viral talking, like it was viral. I read that last year and it was good. And I feel like it was the first series which actually got me back into reading fiction again. Because I used to just read, I think I felt this obligation to read self-help books. I felt like I have to be, this is all I can read because this is what I put out. And it was a bit silly because I got a bit sick of them. Not in a way because just because I think I use reading as like kind of a form of escapism. Like I want to read and not be in my, like, I want to just not be thinking about anything. I want to be in the book. I want to be thinking about the characters in the book. And I find that, I guess just find it really relaxing, not having to think about, like my brain is fully active. Sometimes when I'm watching TV, I don't find myself fully relaxing because I can go on my phone or I can do this or I can do that. But when I read, I can only read. And so that's been a good thing to kind of incorporate into my routine. So maybe I'm doing better than I think. I think I probably am doing better than I think. But I'm aware that this needs to be something that I'm kind of a bit more proactive about, because I do have a tendency just to slip into habits where I just watch TV every single night, which has happened this week. But there is nothing wrong with sometimes a TV evening. This week has felt quite a long week. It's felt quite a tiring week. And so honestly, I've just been watching How I Met Your Mother. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it every single evening, and I feel like it's been the perfect just switch off on how everything is going. But, you know, it can't be like this forever. And so next week, we're getting back to the personal development goals. So on to the content part of this week's podcast episode. And this week, we are discussing university. How I actually found university, my real thoughts on it and kind of everything I wish I could teach you, because I know so many of you are at university right now and you've gone to freshers and you're kind of in the little struggle few weeks now, because freshers comes and it's exciting and different and there's so much going on, and then all of a sudden you're in lectures and the lectures are beginning and then it's becoming a routine and it's kind of like it's meant to feel very normal, but the truth is it's still very new. But for some reason it doesn't feel very new because you feel like you've been there forever, because you've experienced so much change. The kind of this change just kind of like feels like it's like a daily rhythm now, and everyone around you is doing the same thing. It's starting to form, the foundations of your routine are starting to form. But I do think it's something that like I really struggled in those first few months, and I want to share with you my thoughts about the entire beginning university process, because like it was really hard, and I don't really remember many people talking about how hard they found it, because if you are struggling, it can feel quite an isolating and lonely experience, and I don't want that for you. So when I went to university, I'll be honest, I didn't know anyone that had gone to university who was older. The only people that I knew who had gone to university were my parents, and all the stories that they told me were like these golden year stories. Like, this was the best university experience of their life. They came back, they made the best friendships, they had so much fun. It was the time of your life, the honestly, the greatest years. And I think that I internalized that and put quite a lot of pressure on the university experience to be like the best time of my life. And I want to rephrase this entire episode by saying, I'm not here sat being like, you're going to have an awful time, it's going to be terrible, it's not going to be the best years of your life. That's not it. But I'm just not trying to add to that narrative, because that's already such a strong narrative. Everyone already loves university. That's already the thing. What I'm trying to say is, for the people who aren't having the best time or are struggling a little bit, I just want to give like a bit more of a well-rounded picture. But this doesn't by any means mean that you're going to have a bad time, you're not going to enjoy it, and you're not going to make great friends, and it's not all going to go to plan, because university is a great time. It's really fun and it's exciting, and it's something where, you learn a lot about yourself, but it's also something where you do learn a lot about yourself and learn about who you want to be. And yeah, I think hearing someone's perspective on how they actually found that can be really helpful. Because when I went to university, I was really naive about it, I'll be honest. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had never had anyone older who went to university. I was kind of like the oldest sister. I didn't really have any friends who was older than me. I wasn't really super close with people in the year above who went to university. I didn't know. I was so naive. And because I'm an August baby, I hadn't gone to a club yet. I hadn't been out in a UK bar. The only bars I'd been to, I went interrailing that summer and I went to bars there because you can drink at 16. And so I think you can with a meal. I don't know. To be fair, we didn't even really do bars. We did more restauranty or I don't know. I had never really been to bars before. And so not only was uni a new experience in that it was all new and different, I'd never had those types of friendships before, the going out friendships, the night out friendships, the people that you spend all of your time with. I'd always been quite where I lived was quite far away from my school, and so I didn't have friends that close to me. It was always an effort to go and see people, and so it was never really oh, what are you doing tonight, blah blah blah, let's make this plan. And so that guys, when I say it was all new, it was all completely new. And I remember I got home from that holiday and all of a sudden I realized I had no clothes to go to to go to university with. I had no clothes because I hadn't built up my wardrobe, because I'd been in school uniform for the last 10 years. I didn't have this great wardrobe to wear at weekends and Christmas. I just had a few clothes that I wore, but I didn't love it. I didn't have going out clothes I did not have going out clothes. I didn't have anything. I actually had nothing to wear. And me and my mum went shopping to go and buy me a few bits for it. And it's kind of then when I started to think, oh, maybe I'm not quite ready for this. Maybe I'm not actually as clocked on about what this is all going to be about that as I think I am. Because I think I had quite a lot of not a false sense of confidence, but how bad can it be? It's just university, you have to do it. And I think this is something that I have struggled with all of my life, of putting too much expectation on myself to be a certain way, to act a certain way, to force myself into situations that I don't necessarily want to be in because I think I should be in them because I think they're character building. When I was applying for university, I kind of knew that I didn't really want to do it. I kind of knew that I wanted a gap year. I kind of knew, I knew I wanted a break because I was so much younger than everyone anyway. I wanted that break then just to see what I could get up to go traveling, to experience the world a bit. But I kind of also didn't think that was an option. I thought, you have to do these things. You have to make yourself, you have to push yourself into who you think you want to be. This is something that you're going to have to force yourself into, and that is going to be uncomfortable, and you just have to go through it. And I think that's something that I've kind of not fully grown out of, but grown out of a bit. I think I did it in a bit of a toxic way. I think now I understand when I'm finding something hard and it's something I should stick out, or I'm finding something hard and it's actually not for me. And understanding the differences between those two things is important, because there are going to be some things that you will stick out and there are going to be some things that you shouldn't stick out, and that's okay. I think, but like flip side, sometimes I think you should always stick something out for a little bit just to really know if it is or isn't for you. Because you can't know in the start, but I think you sometimes have to prove to yourself. Because I think this is the thing, when I went to university, I was so naive about how it was going to go. I was so naive about how my life was going to look and what just like everything about it. And so when I went to university, I had quite a lot of expectation on it. Not only was it going to be the time of my life, but it was going to be the time that I found myself and worked out who I wanted to be and would find these like great big friendships and kind of really get to know me and who I was. And yes, that did happen. But I kind of forgot in the fact that this wasn't going to be a perfect experience. This was going to be an experience, which means highs and lows. It means both of it. And I think both are important to finding out who you were. I think both ultimately got me closer to that end goal of working out who I wanted to be. But I don't think I quite realised when I went to university there would be both of those things. And that's so naive. But guys, I didn't have social media. I had no social media until I was like 16, 17, 18. Like, I can't remember when I got it. But like, I had nothing. I wasn't allowed social media. Like, I didn't go online. And when I posted, I didn't really scroll. Purely because I didn't know who to follow. Not because like I had some like, I didn't scroll, but I just didn't know who to follow. I wasn't really in the internet culture. I didn't get it. I just wasn't clocked on about it. And it was all new, and there wasn't TikTok. There wasn't so much about like people sharing their stories about how they were really finding things. And I think that is the biggest difference now. There is online forums and people online, like everyone is so much more vocal and you can connect with so many different people, which is great. But that wasn't like it back then. And so I was so naive. And I remember going to university and like, as we're driving and I kind of knew we were coming into Leeds, I started to get this bit of a sick feeling. Like, what have I got myself into? And I remember like stalking the people that I was meant to be in a flat with and looking at their Facebook profiles and thinking, okay, hopefully you're going to be nice. Because you could get like you could find out what flat you were going to be by like saying like, oh, hi, I'm going to like this hall and I'm going to live in this flat. Like, who am I living with? And then you'd create a group chat and you could kind of like get to know each other a little bit. And it was, it was a good way to kind of connect. I remember stalking everyone's profiles and thinking, oh, they look nice, or I hope they like me, or blah, 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 blah. And then I got to university and I had the worst room in the entire flat block, to be honest. Like, I actually don't think there was a worse room to what I had. Honestly, it was awful. I had the first room on the bottom floor next to the fire escape door, which was also the main door. And every time it shut with such force that it made my headboard, like everything in my room shook. Like, it all shook. The room was tiny. It literally had space for like a bed. If this is the square, right? The door is here. Double bed comes out like that, but it's not a double. It's like a queen, like that. Wardrobe here, desk here, bathroom here. And that was it. That was the space of the room. There was no more room to it. And I think, but flip side, I kind of liked it. It felt quite cozy. Didn't feel that lonely, which I kind of, well, no, that's the wrong thing to say. It did feel lonely, but it kind of felt cozy, which I liked. But it was on the bottom floor and it had a bar across the front of the window. It had literally a bar because it was on the bottom floor and they didn't want people to break in. And I just have a really, like, one of me and my dad are always like the saddest memory is when they had to leave me at the halls and I was just like stood at the window and like waving them off. And I remember crying and just being like, what have I done? Like, this is it. I'm going to have to go and make friends. This is really like, this is it. And to be honest, like, I didn't make super close friends with the people in my flat. We were friendly, like, we were polite and civil, but we weren't best friends. And I think that's also the narrative, like, I don't really get on with my flatmates. And that was okay. We're all just very different. And it wasn't like we didn't get on, we didn't like each other. But it was just like we didn't naturally gel. And I think that was almost in a weird way better than us kind of gelling and feeling forced to hang out with each other. Because we kind of all established very early on, we're all going to go find our own friends. We're just going to use this as a base. And that worked. But I think there was something in that I kind of felt like I'd failed a little bit. Like the first hurdle, I thought I'd found these friends and then actually we didn't really get on that well. And I thought, was there something wrong with me? Because I think a big part of me going to university was trying to find this friendship group, was trying to prove to myself like I could make friends and I could have this big friendship group. But actually, I'd gone into this flat and the friends I'd made hadn't been the closest friends. And I found that really hard. I struggled with that a lot, like the internal, just the doubt that like, oh, like, is it actually something wrong with me? But I think the big part about university is that it's this experience of 3 years where you're going to find out so much about yourself, but it's not going to be the only 3 years to do all of the things you think you should. It's not like it's this 3 year period where all of a sudden you're going to come out and you're going to be a fully grown adult and know everything about yourself, and you're never going to be able to make new friends or learn new things or have new experience. Like, that's not the case. Okay, you have your entire life to do everything, but I really saw university as like this, okay, Bella, this is it. This is when you find out who you are. But I think that more comes from thinking like, this is the first time I've ever got to have this. This is the first time I've ever got to live on my own and work out who I want to be. I've never had that type of experience before, and it put pressure on myself, I think, to make it the best thing ever. But the thing is, it was hard. And I cried every single night of freshers. And I don't think people want to hear that because that makes it sound scary. Like, I was so homesick. I missed everything about my family. I missed having people to chat to in the morning. I missed like just being around people. I missed my mum. I missed my mum so much. And it was hard, and I cried a lot. And I really doubted whether or not I was going to stay. And there were definite periods where I thought, I don't think this is for me. But I'm very stubborn, and I stuck it out because I always stick things out. And I don't know if that's a blessing and a curse, guys. That's not always a positive thing. But I stuck it out and I kept going. And you know what? It did get better. Because I think, like, I was watching How I Met Your Mother yesterday, and it said about heartbreak that the only thing that heals heartbreak is time. You know, that's the only thing that heals heartbreak. And I think homesickness is a form of heartbreak. And I think when we go to university and we experience any type of big life change, you're going through heartbreak. Your heart is a bit broken because it misses the people that you've left behind. I don't know why I'm crying. I just find it hard, and I think it's almost like I knew I'd always find leaving home hard, and I did find it really hard, but slowly it's got easier. Because it is just heartbreak, and the thing about heartbreak is it does heal over time. Because all of a sudden you form a new routine, and you start to become more comfortable with the people around you. And guys, I did find friends. I became friends with the people in the flats above me, and we all ended up living together, and like, I had a good time, and it all worked out okay. And I think it's this fact that like university is this big change and it's different, and I found it really hard, but I still stuck it out. And I'm kind of glad I did. You know, do I wish I'd done a gap year? Yes. But I don't know if I'd go back and change everything. Because in that period of university, like, I learned so much about myself, and I kind of stuck something out that I did find really tricky. And so I think if you're at university right now, whether in the beginning, middle, or final year, it's okay to find parts of this really hard. This doesn't have to be the best years of your life. You know, if I look at my 20s, those years weren't the best years of my life. Absolutely not. I think I'm in the best years right now. I think right now is the happiest I've been and the most content in kind of all aspects. But I also think there's always something. There is always something that you're focusing on that isn't great. And I just don't want you to kind of hyperfixate thinking this has to be everything, because this isn't everything, then I've got nothing. That's not it. University might be the time of your life. It might not be a time in your life, but it will be a time in your life. And I think that's about as much power as we should give it. It's just a time in your life. It's a chapter. And it will begin and it will end, and you'll create memories. Some of them will be great and some of them will be really hard. Because for the first time ever, you're going to learn about who you want to be and who you could be. And you're going to think about where you could go and the character and personality that you want to have. And you're going to explore who you are around other people. And you're going to meet friends. You're going to fall out with friends. And you're going to drift. And, you know, it's going to be a bit tricky. Not all of it is going to be easy, but not all of it is going to be hard either, because amongst all of that, of the learning, you have to remember that everyone around you is learning too. And I think it's really funny because I promise you're going to have a conversation with your closest people in second year, and you're actually going to be vulnerable about how you all found first year, and all of you are going to say, it was really hard. I really struggled at the start. It was really, really tricky, because so many of you are struggling and you don't realise this. Because I think that's the thing. You go into university and all of a sudden everyone forms these groups. Everyone forms these groups, and we think they've been in these groups forever, and we're like, oh, how did you all get here? Like, everyone's got such good friends, and it's lonely. I think it's the first time where you're actually properly lonely. But the thing is, these friendships that everyone's found, like, most of them won't last till second year, because they're just people that they've found to connect with, because humans seek that connection. They're lonely and they're wanting people to surround ourselves with, and so all of a sudden we just surround ourselves with people. But that doesn't necessarily mean that those friendships are going to last forever. And so please take from this episode, don't compare yourself to everyone else's uni experience. People are going to find friends, they're going to lose friends, and you're going to find people and you're going to lose people. And that comparison of thinking, I haven't found people quick enough, I'm not having the best time, oh my God, they're posting all those group pictures on Instagram, blah, 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 blah. is only going to make what is already quite a tricky time even trickier. So don't do that. Second thing, university might be the time of your life, or it might not be the time of your life, but it will be a time in your life where you learn and grow and understand more about yourself. And I think it's okay to realize that, like, this isn't where the growing stops. It's not where the friendships stop. It's not where understanding yourself and who you could be stops. That's not how it works. University is kind of just like the beginning step. And there's going to be so much growing and understanding and learning about yourself after it. And so don't think you have to come out of university as this finished product, because that's not going to happen. There's going to be so much left for you to learn after you leave. And finally, I think what I wish I'd known is, like, it is okay to find this hard, but you don't need to make it harder on yourself. I used to think I had to stay at university because I'd find coming home too, like, upsetting, and I'd feel really sad about it, and I didn't want to come home because it would just make me feel more sad. And actually, I should have gone home a bit more. I should have stopped forcing myself into situations because I felt like it would make me a stronger person. You know, you cannot go home because that'll remind you what you've left and that'll be too upsetting. Why? If you want to go home at a weekend, go home at the weekend. You don't need to think you have to have this experience in a certain way. And I think that's what I did. I thought, I have to have this way. I have to work things out this way. And that kind of made it a lot harder, because when I was struggling, I didn't think I could ask for help. I kind of forced myself to, I need to stop kicking the table because it's making the camera wobble. When I did think I was struggling, I kind of felt like I couldn't ask for help. I thought that it was something that I needed to kind of, struggle through, because I thought it taught me more about myself. And whilst it did teach me a lot about myself, you don't have something to prove, okay? This is just a new experience. It's not this new task that if you get 3 A stars in it, then all of a sudden you're going to be the best person in the entire world. It's not like a bush tucker trial, okay? You have to prove yourself in it. It's not how university is. It's an experience. And however you're finding it, that experience is perfectly valid. Because I think that's something that, we kind of forget. But anyway, on to the question part of this week's podcast episode. Okay, this keeps saying that it's got low battery. It's kind of scaring me. So we're going to do the podcast questions very, very quickly. What is your favourite season? I love the summer season in the sense of, like, it feels like it has so much opportunity. I love the month. I think I love July. I think July is my favourite season because July just feels like so much opportunity. But I kind of like September as well in the sense of being able to really focus in. So I'd actually say that going into summer season is my favourite one, because that, like, summer is the chapter of my life where loads of exciting things always happen and it always feels the most fun. Although I used to say winter. I used to say Christmas because sometimes I feel like being cozy is the most perfect, brilliant thing in the entire world. And so my least favourite months, January, February, awful months. Would not recommend those months to anyone. I hate them. But the run up to summer and also the run into Christmas, those are my favourite seasons. How do I find peace in being single? All my friends are in relationships. I feel lost. I think you find peace in being single, in finding the value in that relationship with yourself and enabling yourself to deepen that relationship with yourself. I think that's where the peace in being single really comes. I think it's when you're learning to understand more about yourself and you make sure that the time that you have that is spare right now, because you're not in a relationship, you can be more selfish. You are actually being more selfish, that you're making sure you do every single thing that you want to do, that you're making sure you think about the life you want to live, that you make sure that you're really, really thinking, what do I want my life to be? Because there's very few opportunities in life where we get to be selfish, There's very few opportunities in life where we don't have someone relying on us, whether that's family or friends or a partner or children or whatever scenario you're in, Being able to be fully selfish with our decisions and our wants in life isn't always as easy as we think it's going to be. And so what I would say is I think we find peace in being single when we start to realize the value in being single, when we start to see the value in our relationship with ourselves, when we start to think you need to be your own best friend, because that's something that like when I was single, that's like the value that I kind of found. But I also just want to say, like, it's hard when all your friends are in relationships and you want a relationship. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you should just fall in love with yourself and that's it. Like, it's also all right to find it hard. It's all right to want to be in a relationship. It's all right to want that type of connection. It's all right. I don't think you should force yourself to feel a certain way. And I think sometimes that feeling of lost can come from almost like a guilt, I guess, about like, okay, well, I'm single and I should be loving myself and loving this time myself, but actually I really want that, but I feel like I shouldn't want that. I feel like I should be like fully content on my own. And that is it's all right to want to be in a relationship while still really loving your time with yourself. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have both. But I think if you are feeling lost, I kind of like try and start a new course of something. And that sounds strange, But join onto a pottery course. Find a hobby that you've always wanted to learn how to do. Think about something you've always wanted to try. I'm saying pottery course because I've always wanted, you know how you like throw the clay and like you make your own vase? I've always wanted to know how to do that. And if I became single, I would plow myself into a new hobby of trying to work out who I could be. And I think through doing things that you love, through finding joy in your everyday, through uncovering new hobbies that you actually really enjoy, you find out so much more about yourself. And that is something that maybe might help you feel a little bit less lost. But thank you for listening to this week's podcast episode. If you don't already, make sure you're following me on Instagram and on TikTok at mailfrombella. And I hope you have a lovely week. If you haven't reviewed the podcast or sent this to a friend, please do. It helps so many more people find me, and I can't wait to speak to you again next week. I hope you have a lovely week. I love you. Bye. Mwah.